So you know how on the last episode I had been talking about all the problems I had been having with Dark Knight's Metal? And about half of you thought, okay, when the finale comes out, he'll talk about the positives. And the other half of you thought, okay, when the finale comes out, he'll really rant about it. I am happy to say, both of you are going to be very disappointed. Hello everyone, it's me, Aaron, Professor Thorgy, your guide to all things geeky, and welcome to another episode of Comic Class, the show every single week on this channel where we just geek out about comic books. However, in all honesty, last week we did not do an episode. It was the first time in about 8 months that I can remember, maybe even almost a year. We have had a long track record of successfully putting out Comic Class every single week. And last week was the first time in which, just because of my work schedule, I just had no time to actually film an episode, so I am sorry that we had to miss that week. And this week, I'm not going to be able to talk about anything new coming out, because as you're watching this, I'm currently on a train heading up to Boston for PAX East. It's a gaming convention that I go to every single year. I love it. It's one of my favorite conventions to go to. If any of you are there, then hey, say hi to me if you see me walking around. But that means that I wasn't able to talk about anything this week that's coming out in comic books today. So I decided to compromise. And today we are doing the episode that I should have done last week, talking about the finale to Dark Knight's Metal number 6. There, that concludes the portion of this show where I give you all the backstory on this episode that none of you care about. Okay, yes, so Dark Knight's Metal number 6 has now come out, and this is gonna be another one of them rambling episodes. It's gonna be one of those episodes where I just give you my thoughts about the thing that I just read as it's coming to me, as I'm still trying to process it, except normally I record these things right after I read the book, so the thoughts are all still fresh in my mind. I couldn't do that with Dark Knight's Metal number 6. Because it's been about 5 days since I read that issue, and I'm still processing it. Like, I just got to the point in which I'm like, okay, I think I know how I feel about this issue, because I kept reading that issue. I went back and read it over and over again even, and I just kept thinking, there's so many awesome things happening in this issue. This issue is amazing. Why don't I really feel anything about this? Because every single page of that book is something amazing happening. It's something incredible. It's some big, huge, heroic moment. One big scene of the tide turning and the heroes rising back up. It's the stuff I love in comics. It was the best execution of a final issue to a major event that I have read since Blackest Night. Except Blackest Night had me cheering with every page, and this made me go, oh, I guess that's happening now. Alright, this is happening now as well. Okay then. So I've just spent the last couple days looking at this issue over and over again, just trying to figure out why. Not why are things happening in this book, because there are tons of crazy things happening in there, so it's not out of the realm of possibility that someone look at this and go, why is he riding a Joker dragon right now? No, I looked at and just thought, why is it that I can break down the mathematical formula of why I should be enjoying this, but I'm not? Is it that I've just become so bitter and jaded and broken to comics at this point that no matter what you put in an issue, I'm just not going to care anymore? I'll give it to you, there is that possibility. But I don't think that was it. I honestly don't think that was it. I hope that wasn't it, otherwise there's no point to this show existing anymore. I don't think that's why I just didn't really feel anything for this issue. I think that there is another explanation for it. And let's go ahead and just kind of sum up what happens in here. This thing, as I mentioned in the video where I talked about my problems going into this final issue, the problems I had been having with this entire series as a whole, as I said in that video, I was enjoying this series. I was really liking it, but so many people were holding up and praising it as being flawless, and I'm like, nah, man, there's some issues with this. There's stuff that needs to be talked about with this. And one of the things that I mentioned in there is that there were just way too many unanswered plot lines that were going to have to be answered in this final issue. And a lot of those unanswered plot lines came from other books outside of this series. They came from tie-ins, and they were all going to be answered in this. And I mentioned, I honestly think that's kind of BS. And this leads into something that is kind of a larger issue, and something that I will return to later on at the end of this video, unless I forget, which I always do. But I've been saying for a while now, I think a lot of people are kind of giving DC way too much credit and blaming Marvel for way too much stuff. Don't get me wrong, DC is doing some good stuff, and there is some stuff over at Marvel that Marvel needs to be blamed for. However, I look at a lot of stuff that DC does sometimes, I just think, if Marvel did literally this exact same thing, people would be calling it absolute BS. People couldn't wait to talk about how this is a terrible thing. And yet people are very okay with it because it's coming from DC. And I looked at this, I went, if Marvel put out an event book where there were this many plot lines and none of them had been answered going into the final issue, so they would all have to be answered there, and you had to pick up the tie-ins, which one thing that I will applaud Dark Knight's Metal for is there were very few tie-ins. Scott Snyder even tweeted out that part of the plan behind Dark Knight's Metal is that there was never more than 2 tie-in issues in a single week, so that way it was possible to pick them all up. And bravo to them, I will never stop talking about how that was a great decision. But what I kind of have a problem with is that there are major revelations that happen in this final issue, and unless you picked up, like, say, The Wild Hunt, it meant nothing to you. Unless you picked up the Batman Who Laughs tie-in issue, this meant nothing to you. There's many, many things that got built up in tie-in issues that you would have no idea what was happening if you only decided to read the main series, which I don't think it's asking too much to tell readers, yeah, you only have to read the main series. I don't think that's an insane thing to tell someone. And I also mentioned that one of my problems with Scott Snyder is this is a guy who kind of loves Deus Ex Machinas, and I hate Deus Ex Machinas. He is a guy who will love to have Batman just go, oh, I figured out how to solve this off camera 5 years ago, and I've just been keeping it in my back pocket this entire time. So, you know, I don't have to actually explain to you how I'm doing any of this stuff. I hate that stuff. It drives me insane. But it's not just Batman. He does it with a lot of his other series out there. I kept looking at all the things that had to be resolved in this final issue and going, oh my god, they're gonna need like the biggest Deus Ex Machina of them all. And I will go ahead and say this. This is the least Deus Ex Machina, this is the least Deus Ex Machinas he's ever used at the end of one of his stories. I looked at this and went, you know what? Things are being resolved in here. And they were things that were set up. Mostly, kinda. Okay, there's still a little bit. We'll talk to that later. But this thing opens up with Batman and Superman. They've now sunk into the Forge, and you've got this sequence of Wonder Woman and Hawkwoman charging in there through the arms of the Dark Multiverse, having to fight them all off, having to make their way to Batman and Superman, and it's actually really darn good. I was really enjoying that part. It's pretty awesome. Granted, they start having the other heroes just kind of start popping up there to help them out, and I was kind of like, why are they just suddenly there? I mean, I know that our world was being sunk into the Dark Multiverse, but why are they just like in the exact same spot? That just kind of seems odd to me. But you know what? I can excuse it. I can explain that. That, you know, of course, the Dark Knights would bring, or the Nightmare Batman, I guess they're technically known as. I've just been calling them the Dark Knights. But the Nightmare Batman, I can see that like their big headquarters would also happen to be near the Forge, which is where they're going towards. So, okay, I get that. I can explain that. But they reach that point, Wonder Woman goes in there, and you've got Hawkwoman having to talk to Hawkman. And this is one of those things that I like about this book and don't like about this book at the same time, which is there's a lot of stuff that we haven't really seen in the New 52 universe, but DC has basically said, yeah, we realize nobody cares about that. They want the old stuff. So we're just going to pretend like most of the stuff that happened in the old universe is still canon now, and that we're going to assume that the audience knows all about this stuff. Like they've started making more references to stuff that happened before the New 52, and in the Superman Reborn storyline, they did come in here and basically explain why a lot of the stuff from the old universe is now still canon, and why these characters have existed for longer than they have been. So again, it's not like a big complaint of mine, but they come in here and they've got this moment of Hawkwoman now has to talk down the big demon Hawkman, and I was like, oh man, that's pretty touching. Except that there is that voice in the back of my head, it's like, you've never really seen them together. At least not these incarnations of each other. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I can buy it, I guess. Yeah, sure, alright, yeah, I'm cool with it. That kind of is what my feelings have been about this book the entire time, whenever I want to cheer it on, there's still that voice in the back of my head. It's like, yeah, but you know none of this really makes sense, right? But Wonder Woman goes in the forge and she comes out with Batman and Superman and herself all now decked out in the 10th metal. And they go in there and now they're able to fight off the Nightmare Batman and all the other monsters of the Dark Multiverse. And okay, that, not Deus Ex Machina. They've been setting up this forge the entire time. We all knew this is exactly what was going to happen. It had been leading up to this moment. They've been talking about how this 10th metal was the only thing that could actually hurt them. All right, kudos to this book. Great, you set that up, nice. So you go in there, you start fighting everybody off, and then Batman has to go and stop the Batman Who Laughs, and it's revealed that the person who he has been keeping wrapped up in bandages this whole time was the original Monitor. Like, I believe that's the one from back during Crisis of Infinite Earths, like going all the way back to that. He's got him wrapped up in bandages, and he says, if I combine you with the Anti-Monitor's brain and myself, the matter and antimatter and the dark matter will all mix together and it will destroy all of creation. And now we start getting into some of my problems with this series. As I mentioned, there's a lot of stuff in this book and in the series as a whole that I look at and I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. But when was any of this set up? When did any of this make sense? Like I mentioned in that video 2 weeks ago in which I was talking about my problems with this series so far, they have Mr. Terrific talking about how Plastic Man is his closest friend and they've been together on so many adventures. I was like, I've never seen that, ever, in any book. Don't come in here and tell me you have a bond. Establish the bond. Kind of the same thing goes for this. When they start talking about how, oh, the Monitor will mix with the Anti-Monitor's brain, and it will mix with me and the dark energies, and it will destroy everything. I went, wait, what? When did this become a thing? Was this mentioned earlier and I totally missed all of this? Because there's little hints of how this stuff mixes together, but even those hints kind of come out of nowhere. Because I remember when they introduced the Anti-Monitor's brain, it's just there. And they go, we can use this to break on through to the Dark Multiverse. And I went, how? When has that ever been a thing? How do you know this? Who explained this to you? How do any of you know that you can use the Anti-Monitor's brain to break through? Where did you get the Anti-Monitor's brain? You're just pulling stuff out of nowhere. It's kind of like how in the first issue, when Batman just pulls out baby Darkseid out of nowhere. Okay, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, he's Batman. Of course he's going to have something like that. No, screw you. You have to actually explain some of this stuff. And that's always been my problem with Scott Snyder's version of Batman. There's no explanation to how he works. It's just, well, yeah, he's Batman. That's an awful explanation. I've always hated that explanation. But they've got the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor and the Batman Who Laughs, and they're saying that if all this stuff comes together, it's going to destroy all reality, and I would be feeling so much more tense at that scene. Like, oh, what's gonna happen? Will the heroes arrive to save the day? If they didn't just introduce this plotline in the 11th hour on this one, you can't just introduce something like that right at the very end. Like, here's a brand new way that we're going to destroy everything. Here's my plan B. That plan B is involving science we didn't even know was a thing. Maybe it was introduced in here. Like I said, there were hints of it, but man, I did not see any of this coming, and not in the, oh, I'm so shocked, but more in the, how does any of that work kind of way. Man, I sure can't wait for everyone on Twitter to tell me of how they actually did successfully set all that up, and it actually does make perfect sense. Whoo! Anywho, so, at that moment, Batman shows up to stop the Batman Who Laughs, and the Batman Who Laughs is like, I know all your moves as well, and I can think of things that you could never ever think of. Which, man, in that episode where I talked about my problems with this series, I talked about how I just don't care about the Batman Who Laughs. I know everybody else out there thinks he's awesome and the greatest new villain ever because he's Batman and the Joker combined. I just don't really care about him. By the way, weird side rant, have you noticed how many comics now these days are just, we're going to take two things and put them together? Weapon H just launched over at Marvel, and it's just the Hulk and Wolverine mixed together. The big villain that Spidey has to face in his final Dan Slott storyline is the Red Goblin, which is just the Green Goblin mixed with Carnage. And now you've got the Joker mixed with Batman over at DC. Why is that a thing? Like, why is this now like the new trend that all comics are doing? But back to what I was talking about. One of the reasons why I didn't really like the Batman Who Laughs is that he says, well, because I can laugh. Because I think this way, I can now think of things that Batman never could. I can now plan on the fly. And I was like, wait, so Batman's greatest weakness is that he just can't improv? Batman's greatest weakness is that he's great as long as he has prep time, but he sucks if he has no prep time? I don't know if I agree with that. So the Batman Who Laughs and Batman start fighting, and then the Batman Who Laughs pulls out the same gun that killed his parents and shoots Batman, which actually, yeah, okay. I said that I didn't like the Batman Who Laughs, but that is like the one thing that the Batman Who Laughs has done in his entire existence that I looked at and went, you know what? A Joker-Batman hybrid? That actually fits. I'm actually down with that. That is like the right level of sinister and mind games that I could see the Batman Who Laughs would play. Alright, I'm down with that. So he does that, and then Batman pulls out a secret weapon, which is the Joker shows up, and now the Joker and Batman start fighting off the Batman Who Laughs. And okay, I've been kind of complaining while complimenting stuff all throughout this, but again, they set up the Joker in the prequels to Dark Knight Metal. So again, he was set up, not a Deus Ex Machina, not coming in out of nowhere. He was set up, and this is actually legitimately cool. Seeing the Batman and Joker teaming up to fight the Batman Who Laughs, and the explanation for why that works is that the Batman Who Laughs can think of anything at all that is possible. Batman and Joker teaming up is so not possible that even he couldn't think of it. That's actually a good explanation of why this would work. And I'm actually okay with this. And actually seeing the two of them actually go in there, and like Batman's like, I'll get the legs, and Joker's like, I'll get the face, when the Joker cut his own face off at the beginning of the New 52. Okay, you know what? This is actually a pretty good scene between these guys. I'm actually kind of digging this. And Batman tells him, we never speak of this again. Alright, even threw a little tiny joke in there. Alright, I'm kind of digging this. I am a little bit confused though of why Batman has 10th metal armor that he knows is the one thing that can hurt the Nightmare Batman, and he takes it off before he goes to fight the Batman Who Laughs. I was a little bit confused on that one, but whatever. So while all that's going on, you have Hawkman turning against his master, and he starts fighting Barbatos, and it's like, yay, Hawkman's back. It's like, okay, that's actually pretty cool, and you set up Hawkman, so okay, kudos to you on that. Way to go, I'm enjoying this. And then you have Hawkwoman come in, she delivers the final blow by charging through his chest. Okay, pretty cool. She was a character who was set up throughout this entire thing. You got to see her rise and fall and then rise again. Awesome. It makes sense for her to be the one who delivers the final blow on this one. Kudos to you on that. And then at the end, alright, I mentioned how there are slight, tiny, little itty-bitty Deus Ex Machinas on this. The Earth is... Why did I not remember the name Earth? The Earth, the planet we're on. This one, big green blue thing, a little bit of gray in there. It is falling into the dark multiverse, and they're like, how can we get this out of here? Oh, the tower we were going to use is all gone. And then the monitor says, well, you're covered in tint metal. Tint metal bonds you to all life. Reach into that and reach out to each other and reach out to the ones who they know and to all your other human beings and to all living things, and you can use that to lift you back up. Alright, it's a little Deus Ex Machina that like the smell can just happen to do that thing, but you set up that some magical metal that fights the darkness, and you know what, you've had so many other crazy things happen. I'm not gonna like really complain about that much. It's okay. It's fine. I'm gonna let that one go. That's fine. I don't really care about that. But then it gets even crazier because they rise the Earth out of the dark multiverse and goes flying through space and shoots through the source wall. That big wall that borders off our reality from all other realities. Yeah, this happens. And then, like, the Earth is just restarted again. And, like, there's a big flash of light. And then they come in and they go, yeah, listen, we didn't, like, restart the universe, but we basically kind of, like, recrafted it to make it all work again, to make all this right, to undo all the damage that was done. Challenger's Mountain is back where it's supposed to be. It's not in the middle of Gotham. A little bit of dark energy got everywhere, and some people now have powers who didn't have powers before. But, you know, there's some other slight changes. And then they just go into all these little hints and sneak previews of books to come. And they say, oh, we also awaken something even darker than Barbatos. The god of an entire dark multiverse. We're about to face something even worse than that. Bum, bum, bum. And this is another problem I have with this final issue. I keep talking about how I feel like a lot of people are complimenting DC for things that DC is doing, but if Marvel did the exact same things, they would boo and wag a finger at Marvel. This is something I hate about Marvel events. I cannot stand that no Marvel event can end, and that all Marvel events just come in here at the end and go, here's the next thing that will happen. Here's all the tie-in books that this leads into that you have to buy. You can't just stop reading here. You have to go to the next books, which I understand. It's, it's a business. You have to go in there and basically try and get people to keep coming back over and over again. But man, it makes your ending always feel really cheap if you're just like, but now a new threat is coming. Dude, give me a chance to breathe. And this really felt like how Marvel events end. And it felt like the stuff that I hate about the end of Marvel events, where they just come in here and go, to be continued. Here. Here's the checklist of all the places to be continued. We're even going to hint at some events like Flash Wars that don't really tie into this at all, but you should probably check that out anyways. I did not like this at all. And here's the thing. This book was about so many big epic characters doing big, huge, amazing things, and then they dedicate like multiple pages to just talking about all these new age of hero characters. The new age of hero characters mostly suck. I'm sorry, I know there are people out there who are enjoying them, but no, they're lame. I can't get behind them. I don't like them. And just seeing this event that had all these huge epic heroes ending with, oh, and damage will probably be a thing. That Sideways kid, he might do something. He's totally not ripping off Spider-Man. Yeah, it was just like, dude, come on with this. That is not how you should. Nah, I didn't like it. It left just a bad taste in my mouth. However, I said, this is how Marvel events end. I don't like that's how Marvel events end. But then they do something in here that Marvel events don't do. And it's the thing that makes Marvel events so much more draining than this one was. This one was headed down that path. It was headed into that, here, buy all the tie-ins, and then even worse things happening. You know how this was the worst thing you could imagine? Imagine something even worse than that now. It was going down that path. And then they go, oh my God, Bruce. So we're all here to plan, and Bruce Wayne, the most serious character in all DC, goes, nah, man, we'll do that tomorrow. We had a victory today. Let's party. And then they go into the back room, and it's just a big ass party with all the other heroes. Mr. Terrific is there. Swamp Thing is there, for God's sake. You've got Damian and Jonathan Kent and Alfred up there rocking out. There's a big party that Bruce Wayne is holding at his mansion for all the heroes to celebrate winning the day. And then at the end they go, all right, but we should probably plan. It's like, don't worry, I have a plan. And then he goes into another room, and you see blueprints for the Hall of Justice. And it's like, that's it. Right there. That is what Marvel events are missing. That is what they're missing. Just a moment ago, wasn't that a big deal? Let's all celebrate. Let's all shake hands. Good job. Good job. Let's put on some music. Get a nice brandy going. Talk to our friends about all the stuff we've seen. Maybe just form some new friendships and relationships and bond with each other. And then we're going to leave you on a positive note. We hinted at the dark stuff coming. We hinted at the worst things coming. But we're gonna let you know, good times are around the corner as well. That's what the Hall of Justice was at the end of this. That's what you need to keep your readers going. This ending, yeah, it kind of started to beat me down a little bit, and then it lifted me back up again. That is what events need to do. That is what you need to do to keep your reader coming back. You can't keep beating the reader down and expecting them to keep buying this stuff over and over and over again. You have to end on some really positive notes. That's what makes people happy. That's what makes people want to keep reading. People who are happy will keep reading. People who are sad probably won't. It's kind of simple math on that one. Okay, so I've now talked about everything that happened in this issue. And I've talked about the stuff that I didn't like and the stuff that I did like. However, as I said, even though there was stuff that I didn't like and there was stuff that I did like, I never really went that far in either direction. Like, when I wasn't enjoying something, I was just like, whatever. But when I was enjoying something, I was like, okay, that's something. That's fine. And aside from the big party scene and seeing the new Justice League headquarters at the end. That actually was a good stand-up moment. But why on earth wasn't I enjoying this as much? Because this was nothing but big crazy things happening, and the heroes rising up to save the day over and over again. Wasn't even really a lot of Deus Ex Machinas. Most of this stuff was set up. So why wasn't I really enjoying it? And finally, after a couple of days, it hit me. Yes, this is a bunch of big, huge, crazy, epic things happening, almost one on every single page. And that's the problem. There's way too much crazy stuff happening in this issue, because there comes a point in this issue in which, I mentioned this earlier, in which the Batman Who Laughs is talking about merging the Monitor and the Anti-Monitor and the Dark Multiverse energy, and it would destroy everything. I was like, when on earth did you set any of this up? But it's so insanely crazy that I just looked at and just went, well, yeah, but I can see someone enjoying this because it is so incredibly crazy. But then it kind of hit me. When you just keep introducing that much crazy stuff, one right after another, it doesn't really feel like dominoes are falling into place. It kind of feels like you just keep pulling rabbits out of your hat. And now I'm just like, oh my god, there's so many rabbits. Where was the original one that I was supposed to be following and keeping track of this entire time? In order for all the crazy things in here to have an impact on me, they need to kind of have weight. It needs to feel like every crazy thing that's happening has importance to it. And so many things happen in here, just sometimes out of nowhere, that was like, yeah, it really doesn't kind of have any impact on me. Like, a good example of it is that in the Wild Hunt tie-in issue, they had Detective Chimp and Cyborg and some other heroes go into the multiverse to find other heroes, and in here you see them bring back their own army of multiversal Batman to come in and save the day. I was like, oh shoot, that's a pretty cool thing, and then that's it. Like, you get the big splash page of them charging in, it's like, oh my goodness, big splash page, yay! And then you kind of see some of them in the background. That's it, and I don't think any of those Batmen say a single line, and I recognize those Batmen. I've read the issues that those Batmen came from, and you got the vampire Batman in there. I love that guy. None of them say anything. There's no, like, any sense of flavor to any of them. They're just drawings of Batman on the page, not characters. And, again, all they do is stuff in the background, because we don't have time to focus on them fighting Barbatos. We gotta go on to the next big crazy thing, which is Batman rising up with all the metal on him. Oh my goodness, he's gonna give metal armors to all the other Justice League. Oh, he's doing it. This is great. Now they're gonna get to have their big comeback against the Nightmare Batman. We've been waiting on that moment, because these Nightmare Batman, they destroyed every single one of their home cities. They wrecked their lives. They went head to head with them, and they couldn't defeat them. They couldn't fight the Dark Multiverse energy, but now they have the 10th armor. They're gonna be able to do it. And they're all taken down in like a panel, and they're small panels at that. I mean, you have the Doomsday Batman, who destroyed Batman in his own reality because he had a connection to Superman in his home reality. It was this big emotional thing, because then Superman turned evil, and then he got his revenge on this reality's Superman. And oh yes, I've destroyed your entire metropolis, I've turned them all into Doomsday monsters, which we never actually really see. We hear that's happening off screen, but we never actually really see it. That would kind of be a cool thing to actually see, and it doesn't really happen. But hey man, now you have Superman coming back with the 10th armor. Oh, this is gonna be awesome. He's gonna be able to finally take him out. That's the panel. That's the entire thing that I'd be like, oh man, Superman gonna fight the Doomsday Batman again, but now he's got the 10th armor? What's gonna happen? Oh, one panel this big and just one punch. Okay. Well, what about Hal Jordan fighting the Green Lantern Batman? Oh man, that guy wrecked his entire city. They went head to head in one entire issue, and he couldn't fight him off because he sucked all light from everything. So he couldn't find a way to defeat him, but now he's got a way to defeat him. It's one panel where in the background, he's just forming like a big dump truck, just pushing him out of the way. It's not really the epic comeback fight I was hoping for. But that's the thing about this issue. So many crazy things are happening. We don't get to see the big epic battles I was hoping for between the Justice League and the Nightmare Batman. We don't have time for that. A thing that had been getting set up throughout this entire series, there's no time for it now. We literally dedicated an entire issue, a one-shot, for every single member of the Nightmare Batman to give you their backstory, so that way you would know why it was a big epic thing when they fight the Justice League, and we don't have time for it now. Because there are other crazy things to talk about. Or again, speaking of all those tie-in issues that they did, in which you got to see what happened to the Teen Titans, you got to see what happened to this character, you got to see what happened to this character, you got to see what happened to Green Arrow. They all come back in this, and I love that. I love in event books where all the characters you've been seeing throughout the entire event all rise up as one to go in there and save the day. But in here, again, it moves way too fast for them to actually do anything. Like, you have Dr. Fate go up there, and he saves Beast Boy and Starfire. Oh my goodness, they're gonna go in there, and they're gonna kick out. No, that's the last you see them. That's it. You see them again in one more panel, and they're just standing there now. Or you see Green Arrow going in there, and he's lifting up Steel like, yeah, get back on your feet, buddy. We're going in there to save the day. Yes! Two heroes helping each other stand back up so they can go in there to save the day. Awesome. That's the only panel you see of that. You never see what happens to Green Arrow after that. You never see what happens to Steel after that. Green Arrow was in a tie-in book. Steel was in the main series. Shouldn't he maybe have done something here at the end? Yeah, man, it just moves too fast. Or in all honesty, the big one to me, when the 10th armor is able to lift the Earth out of the dark multiverse, which, as I said, it's a little Deus Ex Machina, but we do know that the 10th armor is this big miracle thing. They did kind of set up that was this big cure-all. It is the White Lantern. I mean, it is the 10th armor, so of course it can do magical things. So they're able to lift it up out of the dark multiverse. All right, fine, cool. You know, if that's something it can do, that's something it can do. Fine, I will accept that. And then it breaks through the source wall. Okay, throughout the entire history of DC Comics, the source wall has been this big, huge, ominous thing just out there in space, just blocking off our reality from all the other realities. They even came in here in Multiversity and created that big-ass map to explain what the source wall was, and they have the Earth break through it. That should be a huge, epic moment. That should be a double page spread of the source wall being shattered and our Earth going through. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe what I just saw. And it happens so quickly, in so few panels. I honestly had to go back and reread that page about 3 times because I was like, that didn't happen, right? That didn't. I think I just saw what happened. It wasn't until like 3 pages later where Batman says, yes, we broke through the source wall. I went, really? Because all I saw was just, you know, you saying you did, and then I see a wall, and then I see a hand, and it's like that panel, that's breaking through the source wall? Okay. That seems like something that we should have, like, been a way more bigger epic moment. But we don't have time for big epic moments in here, because this entire book is nothing but big epic moments. We gotta go from one thing into the next, wham, bam, 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 bam. So this big, huge thing that the entire history of DC Comics has kind of been building up to and is going to change everything forever. One panel. That's it. Man, can we please just focus on one cool thing? Pick one cool thing to make your book about and have it lead up to that. So yeah, in the end, I don't think this was a bad issue, and I don't think it was a bad event, not at all. There is a lot of really good stuff in this entire event, and a lot of really good stuff in this final issue, but that's also kind of the problem. There's too much good stuff in this final issue, and because of that, I couldn't really get the flavor or the taste of any of them. It's kind of like if you have a bunch of amazing meals, just an entire banquet of great courses laid out in front of you, and then you grab a handful of each of them, smush them all together in a big ball, and then you're forced to eat that one big smushed together ball. Yeah, there's gonna be some great flavors in there, but not all of them are gonna complement each other, and some of them are going to go through your mouth too quickly for you to really be able to savor it because another one is coming through right behind it. And also, sometimes when those flavors all start mashing into each other, they kind of cancel each other out, and it just leaves you with some pages that just feel like nothing. But overall, I do still think that this was a good series, and I do like this final issue. I just do have a lot of problems with it. And it's odd because I never thought there's too many good things in a book would be a problem, but now I have learned that is a problem. You can go too far with big crazy stuff happening in your book, but I understand not everybody else is going to feel that way. A lot of people out there, hey, as long as cool things are happening with Batman, that's all I care about. Basically, the best way that I can sum this book up is There's a scene in here in which there's a Joker dragon. Why? Doesn't matter. It's cool. And Batman punches him in the nose, jumps on his back, and uses his ears to steer as he flies into battle. If you heard that and you thought, that sounds like the craziest, dumbest thing I've ever seen, then you're probably like me, and yeah, you're going to feel a little bit meh on this book. But if you hear that and you go, that sounds like the craziest, most awesome thing I've ever seen, then you're gonna love this book. You're gonna love every single page of it. So awesome. I'm glad that you can enjoy that. Way to go. But that's it. That is our take on Dark Knight Metal number 6. Sorry again that you guys had to wait an extra week to hear my thoughts. Hope it was everything that you had been asking me for. Probably wasn't. Sorry about that. But again, if you guys did enjoy this episode, make sure that you click that subscribe button and make sure that you let me know what you thought about Dark Knight's Metal number 6 in the comments down below or on Twitter and Tumblr at Professor Thorgy. And as I said, I'm up in Boston this weekend at PAX East, so if you happen to see me walking around up there, stop me and say hi. I always enjoy meeting fans. Thank you guys for tuning in. Come back next time. Bye.